even as a single person, I'm realizing that there are things that God has done in my life where it was just a me and him thing, like a one-on-one thing, where I would have a revelation or I would have an experience that wasn't shared with anybody else, but I just knew that it was a me and God thing. But at the same time, I've also experienced where God would use other people, like my friends and my family members and just regular strangers, to bless me. And so it's not that God won't use these people to bless you. It's not like your husband won't be used to help you grow and become a better person or anything like that. It's just that they're not the source. And I think that's the key thing that God was teaching me, and he's still teaching me, is Jazmin, the husband isn't the source of your life. The husband isn't the source of your happiness. The husband is just a part of it. It's just a part of your happiness, a part of everything. And I remember, there's a lot of stories in here, so I hope you don't mind, because this is the stuff that taught me what I'm telling you now. I learned of a story of a Christian lady, and she went to this mission trip or something where she was working in somewhere in the world, and that's where she met her husband. And what was crazy is that the kind of person that she was and the kind of person that her husband was, they were so devoted to God that even when they felt themselves being drawn to each other, everyone around them, like the friends who were at the village with them, would say, clearly we can see that these two like have feelings for each other, but it's like they're not budging. And it was because they said that both were so devoted to God that they were like, God, if that's not sent by you, I don't want it. So already I'm inspired, because I'm like, wow, you're drawn to this person, but you still hold them back because you're just like, nah, I'm gonna give this, like you're choosing to give this to God. So that already kind of shook me. And then when they gave it to God and they kind of got like, okay, definitely I can see how this is God, and they got married, they had a kid, and I think after 3 or 5 years he went back to the village or wherever it was they met to continue the work, and he died. And something she said that shook me was, because she was already whole before she met her husband, because she knew that God was the source of her everything, even though she grieved over her husband and it was such a difficult thing, especially since they had a child, she was able to still be content and have joy in her life. She was still able to get back up again and not let that define her life, not let that be like, well, he's gone now, so my life is over. And I remember another story that kind of illustrates that is when a girl said that she had been dating this guy from since like high school. I think it was like 10 years or something like that. And she said that obviously, you know, they were engaged and she was starting to, like, they were planning their wedding. A month, I think, before their wedding, when she was just buying her wedding dress, he messaged her and said, I don't want to do this. And she was like, what? And he was like, I don't think I want to get married anymore. And she said she went to the lowest of lows. I remember being in the bus, I think, reading that story like on my phone, going, 10 years? Boy, you better put that ring on and take it down the aisle. 10 years of my life investing in you? What? That shook me. I kind of transferred it to me. I said, what if, God forbid, I find somebody and then we date, not even for 10 years, we date for 2 or 5 years, and then we decide that we're going to get married, and then right when I'm about to wear my wedding dress, he messages me and says that he doesn't want to get married anymore. If I had made that person my everything, my life, I would have been, in a sense, I would have died with the relationship. Not in a physical sense, but like in an emotional sense. So guys, I think if you find yourself in a relationship, or you've been in a relationship where your life revolved around that other person, I would strongly encourage you to just reconsider that. Not trying to tell you what to do, not thinking that I know it all, but just from someone who've experienced that, where what I thought that was love, it's not. And try to embrace God being your everything, because that's where true joy comes from. I don't want to go into my next relationship holding baggage from my previous relationships. I don't want to go into my next relationship with the same issues, with the same problems. Like I said, I don't believe that I'll be perfect. I do believe that God's gonna use him to kind of sort out some stuff in me still. but as much stuff that I can get sorted out before the person, I want to get sorted out because I want him to be bomb. So I need to be bomb too. And again, it's not about being perfect. It's not about making sure that you're tip-top shape. No, like it's deeper than that. It's about your heart. I'm talking about those heart matters. I'm talking about the level and condition of your heart and your soul and your mind, which sounds very exhausting. But that's why the single season is a difficult one, because that's the process. So the next thing that I thought about is the fact, well, it kind of goes into the first thing, is just that God, it fulfills you. One thing that the girl said who saw the painted sky and interpreted it as God's love for her, now that she's married, she's so glad that God allowed her to experience his love for her first, so that can be the basis for her relationship. But I remember thinking, watching the video, wow, if she didn't have that foundation, the relationship wouldn't have been as meaningful or as purposeful or as strong. Because what stronger foundation to build your relationship on than God? There's nothing stronger. So, and I think that's what's crazy. So many of us build our relationships off of ourselves, build our relationship off of our emotions, you know? That's why things don't work out. That's why. I realized now that all my life I've idolized marriage, I've idolized a husband, I've idolized relationships. And like Monique said in one of my videos, idolizing something isn't just like hail, hail. When you worship something, you give worth to that thing in your actions, in your life, in your commitments, in your efforts. The worth that I gave to marriage and love and relationships, the value I gave to it, the significance, the importance, it was all false. It's not real. It's earthly. It's not how God intended it to be. And I know you've heard this before of it's not earthly, and I used to struggle with that too. Well, just because it's earthly doesn't really mean it's bad. Like, why is everything so religious? But honestly, it's not a religious thing. I realized that when it's God's way, when you're doing things God's way, it is so much more meaningful. How about peace? I don't know about y'all, but one thing I'm excited for my next relationship is peace. Peace to know that this is God's will. And I think because I've dedicated my life to God, when I'm not in accordance with his will, or my life isn't aligned with his will, I feel off. I don't feel at peace. I'm living and I just feel like I'm walking on eggshells, like anything can just pop off at any moment. But when I obey whatever he's called me to do or not do, the peace that comes is beyond understanding. I just have this inner knowing of things ain't things right now, but I just know everything's gonna be all right. I just know that I'm exactly where God wants me to be. Mainly now with is loneliness. I struggle with, oh my gosh, I want to go on a date, I want to, hold a hand and, get kisses on my forehead. But when I think about that, I'm just like, okay, you're struggling because you're feeling lonely and wanting kisses on your forehead. But if you just ran outside and picked up a guy and started dating him, obviously not that way. But if I just decided to date somebody, right, then the stress would be so much more than just wanting kisses on my forehead. Like, the stress would be the fact that I won't have peace. The stress would be knowing that I'm doing this prematurely. The stress would be all the reasons, all the things that would happen because this isn't the one for me. Like, when you kind of compare the stress or the struggle that you go through, feeling lonely versus or jumping into a relationship prematurely because you want them to fulfill you, but then you realize they can't fulfill you, and so you struggle with that, and then it becomes a toxic relationship because you know they can't fulfill you, but you continue to be with that person because you don't want to let them go, and you're too scared to see them with somebody else, and you think that if you can just hold on, if you can just wait, if you can just pray about it, then it'll be good. But then you realize that you can't ask God to bless something that he didn't do. You can't ask God to bless a relationship he never put together. So that's why you don't feel peace, and you won't get peace until you end the relationship. Like, guys, I know what that is. I know what that feels like. Coming from all of that to, well, I want to go on a date and I want kisses on my forehead. I'll wait. Thank you. Now, one of the things that I'm so excited about is the fact that God is showing me who I am. Like, you know, people's like, oh, well, how can you love somebody else if you can't even love yourself? I used to get so annoyed, like, oh, I have to love myself before I love somebody. This is so much work. Like, why can't I just love somebody? You know that song that says, so let me love you until you learn to love yourself. Neo? I was like, can't he just love me until I learn to love myself? The answer is no, he can't. God is teaching me about myself, who I am. He's teaching me, I'm reading my notes. He's teaching me about purpose, love, peace, prayer, joy, all before the person, so I won't have any false alternatives that are far against the truth. Example, God is teaching me what I like and what I don't like. In a relationship and in a man, yes, but more than that, just about life. You know, he's teaching me what my personal boundaries are, how I like to live in my living space. How do I like things to be ordered? How do I like things to be set, you know? So it's like there's certain things I've learned about myself that being with someone, I wouldn't have learned that about myself. I would be too distracted. I think many times we get into relationships because we don't want to be lonely. However, we allow that relationship and that person to define us. So if they say we're beautiful, we're beautiful. If they don't say we're beautiful, or if they say another girl is beautiful, we're automatically like second guessing, like, am I really beautiful then? Like, you know, that kind of way. Now, if you guys watch my video with Monique, you will know that I was like, oh, I want to get married at like 22, have kids by like 24. And then I kind of jumped off that wagon because I'm 20 and I kind of just wanted to give it to God. Well, one thing that God is showing me is just how perfectly imperfect marriage is. I didn't think that marriage would reflect God, or that marriage was a form of a worship to God. I kind of thought that God and like marriage was like two separate things. I couldn't grasp the idea that both me and my husband are children of God, because our social understanding of like the family dynamics, I'm like, that's kind of weird. Me and you had the same heavenly father, like what? But then someone told me like a vision that they kind of had of just, and I kind of understood it, where it was just like God looking down at like a man and a woman. And I don't know how else to explain it, but thinking on that image, I can clearly see how God really is the father of both of us. So I think for me, that is so important, knowing that even though my husband is going to carry me and I'm going to carry him, there is a greater being carrying both of us. There is a greater being covering both of us. I thought that marriage was just gonna be like everyday, joyful, happy, love being with this guy, like just a bliss. And then I realized that yes, I do believe that's how it's gonna be, but I also know that there are gonna be times where I'm annoyed or he's annoyed. There are gonna be times where I don't know, like it's just not going to be perfect. But many people who are married now, talking on singleness, they say a lot that, you know, people are jealous of us because they say, oh, well, you can't talk about this because you're married or da-da-da. And he's like, no, like struggles you have in your singleness are different from struggles you have in your marriage. Both aren't perfect, but both are important and both are blessings. And I don't fully understand it. I don't fully grasp the whole idea of marriage and the whole idea of everything. But I'm starting to get glimpses of it, guys, and it's a process. So I just wanted to come here and encourage you and let you know that it's okay if you're single. It's okay if you don't have somebody. It's okay if the last relationship didn't work out for whatever reason. I don't care how they made you feel. They don't define you, God does, and that's a blessing. That's freedom right there. If you're with someone and you still feel lonely, give yourself and give the relationship to God. Whatever happens, know that it's His will. And if you're like me, who, yes, you want to get married and have all that amazing stuff, but I'm not rushing anymore. I don't want to rush. I want to embrace my single season. I want to have fun with my friends and just enjoy life before being committed to someone. Because I know that when it happens, it's gonna happen at the right time with the right person, and I'm so excited for it. But what's gonna be such a huge testimony is that when he comes, you guys will be able to go back to this video, to where I was single, to where I was talking about before the person, and realize that your single season is a blessing, and everything's not what it seems, and God got you. So that's it. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video.